Hey, this is Nicho. I'm Chris. This is my dog, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for Invicta FC 11. I went to this card live, actually. Some things to note. I sat third row from the cage. My seats are actually in the back, but there's no one in like some of the front rows, so you can easily just kind of slide away into the closer rows, especially from the section that I was in. I saw a lot of fighters in attendance. Donald Cerrone was just walking around taking pics. Saw Brandon, I think it was Brandon Thatch that was with him. Kelvin Gastelum was sitting 2 rows behind me. Saw Cub Swanson. Felice Herrig was there. I saw someone that I think was Michelle Watterson. Marina Shafir was there. Jessamine Duke and Shayna Baszler. And also Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta. Bonuses. Fight of the night went to Alexa Grasso versus Mizuki Inoue. Performance of the night went to Chris Cyborg Justino and Irene Aldana. My picks were good. I got 7 out of 8 correct. The only one that I missed was Amy Montenegro versus Brianna Van Buren. Things to note, crowd pops. Irene Aldana got a really good reception when she came out. Alexa Grasso is a star in the making. They'd put videos of her and she'd get cheered. There's a small contingent that would cheer, but there's something there with her. I've noticed it for a long time now. She's really good. And of course Cyborg got some good pop as well when she came out and then destroyed Charmaine Tweet. So yeah, let's just get to the fights. Christine Cyborg Justino defeated Charmaine Tweet by TKO in the first round. Not much to say here. Cyborg did what Cyborg does to overmatched opponents. She swarms him and she drops him and beats him up very badly. And that's kind of what happened here. There isn't much to say, as far as the fight goes. As far as the after fight goes, obviously, there's it looks like Chris Cyborg's next fighting in July. There's still talks, of hey, you're going to cut down to 135. If she does fight in July, it's on a Friday. I think it's the 10th. There aren't too many 145ers out there that she can fight. The only one that I think is probably acceptable would be Amanda Bell. Because, Marlos Kunin is in strike, Bellator. Julia Budd's in Bellator. Talita Nogueira's in Bellator. There aren't many options here. Maybe she fights Edion Gomes, who's coming off a loss. But otherwise, yeah. 145 is a wasteland. Funny story, actually. I remember there was this guy that was, I go to some forums, and he's posting, there's no difference from 135 and 145. They're pretty much, he's saying they're the same skill level. Just don't believe what the UFC hype machine's telling you. Ronda Rousey's killing all of these inferior opponents, and so is Cyborg killing all of her opponents. And it's it's just the UFC hype machine that makes it seem like 135-pound female fighters are more or superior to 145-pounders. And it was just funny because I'm I can probably name 3 good 145-pounders, female featherweights, Chris Cyborg, Julia Budd, and Marlos Kunin, and that's it. Edion Gomez is probably the next best, and she cut down to 135. And then after that, you have Amanda Bell, who only has 5 fights, or Talita Nogueira has 7 fights. Marina Shafir only has 3 fights or something like that, and I'm how's this even possible? But then also you know, I've been watching women's MMA for a while now, before I was even in the UFC, and it's like, you know, skill-wise, I mean, I don't know, I don't know how to say it, but if you look at the skills of some of the top fighters at 135 in comparison to 145, I mean, you got more well-rounded fighters, just more technical, just on a skill basis alone, and more quantity too. Of course, it does not even come close to 115 pounds, and we'll get to that right now. Alexa Grasso defeated Mitsuki Inoue by unanimous decision in strawweight. Like I said, Alexa Grasso is a star in the making. I mean, she is just... I would not be surprised if Grasso and Aldana both fought on that UFC card, the next UFC card in June in Mexico, because these two have like crazy star power. They both have a very fan-friendly style fighting as well. Grasso in particular, watching this fight live, this was a very good fight. I mean, it was technically sound. Grasso actually moves her head, strikes boxes in combination. Mitsuki did good too with her boxing. The ground game, Grasso needs to work on her ground game a little. She kept trying to take the back too quickly, and she's really high. That's how she got that triangle. It's like a reverse triangle on Mitsuki Inoue the first time. She tried it a second time, but it's like that's probably not the best. It wasn't the best move for her to do. But it was cool to see Mitsuki Inoue rally in the third and show that like momentum change. You know, both are still super young too. Inoue's like 20, Grasso's like 21 or 22. Just to tell you, the next wave of women's strawweights really are in Invicta. I mean, you see the first class, which is from The Ultimate Fighter, and others like Claudia Gadelha and whatnot, but the next class of fighters are currently fighting in Invicta. Grasso, Inoue, Egg Inc., Jamie Moyle, Diana Bennett, Kovalkovic, Aldrich, even though she's coming off a loss. You know, this is the next wave right here, and they're really good. You know, I mean, the fight was that Grasso definitely got the better of the stand-up combination boxing. Good amount of fighters that fought Grasso have gotten dropped or beat up really bad, and no way, you know, it's got a good chin on her. She was taking it, giving some back too as well. So that was, you know, it was really good. Despite losing, you know, it's still good performance from Inoue. Her, you know, even though she lost to Carolina Kovalkovic in her last fight, it was still a really good fight, you know. So she has good fights. I liked her fight against Beck Rawlings. That was also a fun one as well. But yeah, I think Grasso, I mean, she needs to work on things in her grappling. She's still a good grappler. I mean, when she got taken down, she got back to her feet. And, you know, she has awareness on the ground. She almost got a triangle on Inoue, like a reverse triangle. So, I mean, she's good. You know, I mean, she knows what to do down there. Just you know, she's only has like what 6-7 fights or something like that. She already fights at an extremely high level. I mean, this fight, quite honestly, like on a technical level, is better than some men's fights. So great stuff here. It looks like Livia Hanata Souza is going to fight Kachikam Kampa next. So if Grasso stays in Invicta, doesn't get picked up by like the UFC, she can fight like a Carolina Kovalkovic, Deanna Bennett, maybe Jamie Moyle, Ayaka Hamasaki. I mean, even if you want to go like, you can go losers and winners here. Stephanie Egg Inc. versus Grasso would be cool as well. And no way, I'd like to see her get like Egg Inc. or maybe even JJ Aldrich next. You know, there's good opponents for both. Next fight after that, Deanna Bennett defeated Norma Rueda Center by a unanimous decision. This was not a great fight. I quite honestly expect more from Deanna Bennett. Maybe it's a weight cut or something. Her last 2 fights were pretty good. She fought not Juliana Lima. She fought Jennifer Maia in her last fight in a good fight. And before that, she knocked out Michelle Old, if I'm not mistaken. She's a good wrestler. She didn't really show it here. She'd kind of just like drive into the cage, but she wasn't really like low enough against center. Her striking, it was just too much respect for her opponent. It would flash like a front kick every once in a while. It wasn't a great performance from her. I was expecting a lot more. Center's tough. Striking wise, she needs work. She's actually not a bad wrestler. She was defending Bennett's takedowns pretty well. They weren't great takedowns though, but I think Deanna Bennett still, is still a very good strawweight. She is a winning strawweight, undefeated, good wrestler, So, but I would have liked to see a little more from her in this fight. Nonetheless, there's good fights for her. If you want to give her, I'm always gonna say like the same names, like Hamasaki, Moyle, fighters like that. You can, and I don't even know who they're gonna bring in. That's the other thing too. Because Invicta will just bring in some like unknown fighter that's like, hey, this person's actually really good. So. Yeah, it was not a great fight, it was kind of a glorified sparring match. Next fight after that, Irene Aldana defeated Colleen Schneider by rear naked choke in the first round. Great performance from Aldana. She's got some good hands. She has some power in her strikes. And it looks like this is like, the second time that she's got a rear naked choke. I think she beat Peggy Morgan in her last fight and choked her out. Right? There aren't many quality women's bantamweights outside of the UFC. She is one of like 3. You know what I mean? That are actually pretty decent. Now one of like 5 or something like that. There's like Kelly McGill, Tanya Abitur, Adine Gomes, a couple others. Colleen Schneider's actually not that bad, too. She's actually a good wrestler. But yeah, that's the sort of fight. Aldana, she's got some good boxing, relatively heavy-handed, and the second time she finished the fight with a choke. If the UFC doesn't pick her up, I'd like to see Aldana get Tanya Abinger next for women's bantamweight title shot, because there's really no one else at this point. On the prelims, Jamie Moyle defeated J.J. Aldrich by submission in the first round. It's by rear naked choke. I am so impressed with Jamie Moyle. She is really good. I don't know how else to say it. She trains at a good camp, too. She trains at a syndicate. Her striking is solid. Everything about her is solid. I don't know how to say it. I'm very high on her. I think if she went to the UFC, she can beat, maybe a Felice Herrig, maybe definitely like a Beck Rawlings, or like Angela Magana, maybe Heather Jo Clark. She went to the UFC, now she can get wins over at least a mid-tier of strawweight. Her takedown was like picture perfect. Is in the center of the cage. I love takedowns that are done in the center of the cage. Her striking's really good, and her ground game's good too. She can do it all. Still young, still improving, and already this well-rounded. Very impressed with her. I want to see her fight top strawweights at this point. If you want to give her more seasoning, you can. I don't know if she needs it. It looks like she's just gonna beat up a lot of her opposition. She really is that good. Aldrich is not a bad strawweight prospect herself. She just ran into a much better strawweight prospect at this time. You know, it's just one thing about Aldrich is she's kind of low. She doesn't have a lot of power in her strikes, whereas Moyle does. So but otherwise, you know, she'll get back into it. You know, Aldrich is still a good strawweight prospect. Moyle is like a blue chip one. Next fight after that, Amy Montenegro defeated Brianna Van Buren by unanimous decision. This was an okay fight. It's mainly contested into clinch, and Brianna Van Buren is pretty small she's short for the weight class, relatively small. She would get controlled against the cage a lot of times in this fight. A cut to 105 might be good for Brianna Van Buren. Amy Montenegro, I mean, solid. You know, her performance wasn't too bad. That's the other thing with a lot of female strawweights too. You don't see too many big mistakes like you'd see in other weight classes. You know, it's just even though like JJ Aldrich lost, it wasn't because she made some big mistake. And I'm not just talking about like Kat Zingano doing a flying knee. I mean, it just sometimes like Jessica Andrade's getting triangled. I mean, it just really there's a level of sloppiness in a lot of like other weight classes. 135, you see it. 145 for sure. I mean, it's really sloppy. Once you get lighter in the weight classes, you see less and less. At 115, you don't see that like crazy sloppiness from a lot of fighters. And some of them don't have a lot of experience. It's just for some reason strawweights, I don't know, they're just good. They just pick it up well. And I see that atom weights too. You don't see too many big mistakes from atom weights these days. They're getting a lot better. But anyways, yeah, you know, solid performance from Montenegro. Curious to see what she brings to the table going forward. You know, I wouldn't consider her like a blue chip prospect in the division or anything like that, but once again, solid competitor for sure. Next fight is that Christine Stanley defeated Laura Salazar by TKO in the first round. Here's another thing I'm starting to notice, especially on this fight card. There are some pretty heavy-handed females out there. Excuse me, heavy-handed women out there. I know some, like, sane females, or female fighters is what I should have said. You know, they just gotta find them. They are there. Christine Stanley is one of them. I remember she got this like I think it was a right hook that dropped Salazar. She's got some good stand-up. Looks like she has got some good takedown defense. Christine Stanley does train with Liz Carmouche in San Diego. You know, so that should definitely help with her wrestling and grappling. And her stand-up's solid. She has some pop in her hands. I'm looking forward to her next fight. You know, she won a fight by a spinning hook kick. I mean, it just knocked out her opponent out cold. So yeah, you know, she's pretty tough and rugged. Yeah, I definitely want to see more of her. She looks like she can knock opponents out cold. Or, you know, she definitely has knockout power. In a stage of women's MMA where knockouts are still pretty rare, you know, but heck, you saw a good amount of them today. You know, Aspen Ladd, or not today, on the Invicta event. Aspen Ladd, Christine Stanley, Donna dropped her opponent. You know, Justino obviously has power as well. So yeah, you know, definitely, you know, let me see more Christine Stanley. I don't forget what weight class she fights in. I think it's 125, which actually is not a bad division. There are a lot of female bantamweights in the UFC that can probably cut to 125, and then you have like good prospects like KGB. Andrea Lee is really good at 125. You know, and Invicta also just added a whole bunch more, 120, like a couple more flyweights as well. So I think Stanley fights at 125, or else I know Aspen Ladd does. So that's actually a kind of a growing division right now. But of course, a lot of 125ers are now trying to make that cut to 115 or just moving up. Now, like Nina Ansaroff, Diana Bennett, Kalinda Faria, you know, and you can tell some of these 115ers are just getting bigger now. Like Claudia Gadelia and Joanna Jacek, pretty big for the weight class. And then like Rose Namajunas and like Carla Esparza are kind of small for the weight class actually. And finally, Aspen Ladd defeated Anna Carolina Vidal by TKO in the first round. I like Aspen Ladd. I think she is a pretty good prospect. She's only 19. One thing about her that I like is she's a high-pressure fighter. High-pressure fighter. And she's kind of a bruiser. Like, she's... You can tell she wants to, like, hurt her opponent. I mean, I know that sounds weird about MMA, but, like... I can't like a gun, like men that want to do that, like male fighters that want to do that would be like Matt Brown or something like that. You know, they just really want to hurt their opponent. Aspen Ladd kind of has that like mentality. You know, it's like she doesn't, I guess, like doesn't fight to like win decisions. There we go. She kind of fights to like hurt her opponent and to get a finish. I like what I see out of Aspen Ladd. She has good volume striking and the stand-up. Some really relentless ground and pound. She's only 19 also. I think she fights at 125. If she ever gets a call up to the UFC, she's probably going to have to choose if to cut down to 10 more pounds or move up to like bantamweight or something. She is a good prospect. I'm actually pretty high on her actually. And like I said, she's still only like 19. With Vidal, I mean, all she had was she had like one amateur fight before this, or maybe two. She did a lot of jiu-jitsu. She did like jiu-jitsu competitions, but you can tell she's like a jiu-jitsu like competitor doing like MMA. You know, kind of. She doesn't have a lot of experience in MMA, man. It kind of showed. So yeah, that's it for my post-fight analysis for Invicta FC 11. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.